Part 57. The Liu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 561. Chapter 561. Do you want to go see a movie together? When Zhang Wanan returned home, the house was still deserted. Even Aunt Lu and Xiaolan were not there. After changing her shoes, she lay down on the sofa to catch up on the show. The sound inside was clearer since no one was watching the TV at home, but this made Zhang Wanan feel lonely and empty. Even the soft sofa became uncomfortable. She adjusted several positions on the sofa but to no avail. She picked up a pillow and huddled in a corner to look at the deserted and unattractive house. She thought that if Luzes who could be here, it wouldn't be like this. I couldn't watch the TV, so I turned off the TV and went to the kitchen to drink a glass of water. Then I walked upstairs and went straight to Luzes who's room. Luzes who's room is the only one that is still popular now. It has the smell of him, and she can fall asleep easily while lying on the bed. But this time she overestimated herself. She could sleep easily before, but this time she couldn't. Lying on Luzes who's bed, smelling the familiar smell in the room, all she could think about was the usual scenes of getting along with Luzes who. Zhang Wanan was almost furious. She clenched her fist and hit the bed hard. Although it didn't hurt, she could vent her anger. It's really worthless, she said to herself, hating herself for being so stubborn. Zhang Wanan just wanted to complain about herself, but the small mirror was already set up. The cell phone on the bed rang at an inappropriate time. Zhang Wanan felt excited and fell over to get the phone. But when she picked it up and looked at the display on her phone, she was a little disappointed. She thought it was Luzes who, but it turned out that she was overthinking it. Hello. Zhang Wanan was in a bad mood, and her tone of voice when answering the phone was much more casual, and she lost her usual politeness. Anan, do you have time tonight? Zhang Bai way over there didn't seem to hear anything wrong at all, and his tone was even a little excited. Zhang Wanan raised his head and glanced at the time. If nothing else, it should be very leisurely. Then, do you want to come out and watch a movie with me? I bought a ticket, and I was so lucky that I got another one as a gift, he then asked. Zhang Wanan was speechless for a moment. Are you sure you didn't buy two? I'm really sorry. I'm a little tired tonight. I just went shopping with Xiao, so, I'm sorry. Zhang Wanan rejected him embarrassedly. Zhang Baihui's recent behavior was very unusual, which made her panic. If she accepted Zhang Baihui's various invitations every time, she would probably lose half her life if Luzes who found out. Another aspect is that she knows Zhang Baihui's thoughts about him, so every time Zhang Baihui is nice to her, she carefully refuses, not to leave him any hope or hurt his self-esteem, which is also good for him. She does not belong to him after all, she belongs to Luzes who, now, in the future, and for the rest of her life. That's it? Zhang Baihui paused for a while with a long pronunciation. Zhang Wanan could hear the disappointment in his voice. He was still excited when he called just now. This change in mood. It's okay, I'll go and see it myself. You have a good rest. I'll call you next time when there are free tickets, Zhang Baihui said, half jokingly and understandingly. Zhang Wanan said sorry again and the two hung up the phone. Zhang Baihui is still very good at finding steps for her to get off. At the entrance of the cinema on the other side, Zhang Baihui looked at the two tickets he had just received and sighed. He heard that the movie was very good, so he came to buy the tickets. He originally wanted to ask Zhang Wanan out to watch it, but instead unexpectedly, Zhang Wanan was already tired of shopping. In fact, he had already prepared for rejection, so he did not feel a great sense of frustration when he was rejected. End of this chapter. The Liu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 562. Chapter 562. The more frustrated you become, the more courage you get. In fact, he had already prepared for rejection, so he did not feel a great sense of frustration when he was rejected. After all, the more you get frustrated, the more courage you get, so this time is just an exercise. He sighed, placed the 2 tickets in a conspicuous place, and walked away lonely. Suddenly I am no longer in the mood to watch a movie. It is better to go home and read some books or review materials. After all, the high school entrance examination is coming soon, so it is better not to let your mind wander too much. After hanging up the phone, Jongwon stared at the ceiling for a while, and her eyes felt tired, and then she fell asleep, but this was the result she wanted. When you fall asleep, you won't feel bored alone. When Jongwon woke up again, she was woken up by Lin 11. It was already past 7 o'clock, and they came back very late today. Anan, it's time to get up and eat, Lin 11 said gently. Jongwon rubbed her eyes, put on her shoes, jumped out of bed, stretched and asked, Mom, why do you always come back so late lately? It's okay. I'm just very busy these days. I won't come back so late tomorrow. Are you bored at home alone? Lin 11 asked. Jongwon nodded vigorously. It was true, it was simply too boring. Sorry, Mom will definitely come back early tomorrow, and it won't be like today, Lin 11 promised again and again. Okay, Jongwon smiled and hugged Lin 11 and gave her a kiss. Lin 11 sighed silently, thinking that the family was different from 2 children to 1. Not only did the adults feel empty, but even the other child would be lonely. The main reason is that she is really busy these days, otherwise she would never find time to spend time with Jongwon, but she is not allowed, but it will be fine tomorrow, and she can come back early tomorrow. By the way, your mother will be back soon, probably before the Mid-Autumn Festival, Lin 11 told Jongwon about Tangyu when they went downstairs. Tangyu went to another place again. That place was not very good, and the environment was not good. But they couldn't figure out why Tangyu went there, but they all respected her, and she must have her own ideas. Jongwon stretched out her fingers, clasped her fingers and muttered a few words. It was about the same time that Xiao's Huza came back. Alas, I haven't talked to my mother on the phone for several days. The environment and signal were not good at Tangyu's place, so he answered and made calls at random, so Jongwon had not been in contact with her for a long time. We'll all be back in a few days, just in time to have a reunion dinner, Lin 11 said. The 2 of them had already gone downstairs while talking. Lu Lin was busy at the dining table. Sister Liu's health was getting worse day by day. She kept running to the hospital recently, and Xiaolan also went to accompany her, so they had to cook the meal themselves. I've just made a few simple dishes, so don't dislike me, you two, Lu Lin smiled and distributed tableware to the 2 of them. Jongwon looked at a table of decent food and approached Lu Lin and whispered, much better than Mom's cooking, Dad is awesome. Because of Jongwon's words, Lu Lin instantly laughed happily, and Lin 11's scary eyes also glanced over. She looked at the 2 of them and said fiercely, don't think that I don't know that you 2 are whispering. What are you talking about? Are you making fun of me? The 2 of them naturally did not dare to risk their lives to admit it, and remained silent in a tacit agreement. Lin 11 snorted coldly when he saw that the 2 of them were not talking and were in the same group, and did not pursue the matter any further. Halfway through the meal, Lu Lin suddenly asked, should we find a new aunt? It's time for Aunt Lu to retire. This is the most important issue they should consider now. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 563. Chapter 563, Need to Adapt Again. Halfway through the meal, Lu Lin suddenly asked, should we find a new aunt? It's time for Aunt Lu to retire. This is the most important issue they should consider now. Aunt Liu's body is really not suitable for working anymore. Lin 11's hand holding the chopsticks paused for a moment, then moved it again and said, I'm looking for a new aunt, and I just have to get used to it again. There's no other way. Lin was also a little helpless. It's better that you look for it if you are serious, you can trust the person you are looking for, Lin 11 said. The aunts in the family were all found by Lin. Except for the mistake made by Aunt Lu when Zhang Wanan found out the real thing after eavesdropping and leaking the truth, there seemed to be no important mistakes. So the Aunt Lin found was as trustworthy as he himself. Lin nodded, then leave this matter to me. Asterisk. 3 days later, the Lu family found a new aunt. Zhang Wanan had finished school early. When she went back, it wasn't time for Lin 11 to come back, but with that aunt, she wouldn't feel lonely. I don't know whether that aunt always liked chatting or was entrusted by Lin and Lin 11. Anyway, she took great care of Zhang Wanan every day, and she could make Zhang Wanan laugh every time with a few words. Because of the arrival of this aunt, Zhang Wanan felt a little less lonely. Auntie's surname is Qin. According to past habits, Zhang Wanan likes to call her Aunt Qin. Aunt Qin, I find that you have a very good personality. You are quite similar to my best friend, Zhang Wanan praised. She suddenly discovered that Aunt Qin had a good personality and seemed carefree, almost like Su Xiao, a little idiot. Really, everyone says that, but I think it's quite normal, Aunt Qin said with a smile. You are so humble. Aunt Qin couldn't help but laughed heartily. After laughing, she asked, little girl, do you have anything to order tonight? Aunt Qin will cook it for you. Fish, fish, fish. I want to eat fish. Zhang Wanan stopped walking upstairs. She had forgotten to order tonight and almost missed 100 million. Okay, hurry up and do your homework and study upstairs. My wife will be back soon. Aunt Qin waved her hand and said. Zhang Wanan nodded and ran upstairs. Aunt Qin's arrival not only made Zhang Wanan feel that there was a sense of life in the house again, but also Lin and Lin 11 were extremely satisfied. For this reason, Lin 11 often praised Lin for this matter, and Lin was also very upset. Asterisk. The Mid-Autumn Festival is getting closer and closer, and the atmosphere is gradually starting to appear in supermarkets. Beautifully packaged mooncakes can be seen everywhere, and there are more and more people in the supermarket. Because Luz's who was coming back soon, Zhang Wanan always felt her little heart beating hard. She would not be back until a few days, but she was already extremely excited. On the morning of the weekend, Aunt Qin was going to the supermarket to buy things. Zhang Wanan happened to get up early that morning, so she got dressed and left with Aunt Qin without saying a word. Aunt Qin was naturally happy to have someone to go with her. She kindly held Zhang Wanan's hand and chatted with her all the way to pass the time. Aunt Qin, what do you want me to buy when I go out with you this time? Zhang Wanan asked. She was so excited that she ran out without knowing what she was going to buy. Whatever you want to eat, buy whatever you like, Aunt Qin said cheerfully. Zhang Wanan shook her head and felt worried. I used to like to eat snacks, and the more I ate when Xiao's Huza was there to take care of me, but now I don't want to eat anymore when no one is taking care of me. So I don't know what to buy, and I don't know what to buy. Know what you like. But your little boat will be back soon. Aunt Qin's words instantly woke Zhang Wanan up. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 564. Chapter 564. Your little boat will be back soon. But your little boat will be back soon. Aunt Qin's words instantly woke Zhang Wanan up. Although Aunt Qin has only been in the Lu family for a few days, she has always known about Luz's who, but she has never seen him in person, only in photos. All the news about Luz's who was heard from Zhang Wanan. Sometimes Zhang Wanan would chatter endlessly about Luz's who after her. She didn't find it annoying. Instead, she felt that the two children had a very good relationship. If there was a chance, she would like to eat the two children's wedding candies and drink their wedding wine. Because of Aunt Chin's words, Zhang Wanan instantly remembered Lu Zizhu's return during the Mid-Autumn Festival. She patted her head hard and muttered, "Yes, Xiao Zhuzi will be back soon. Do you know what you want to eat now?" Aunt Chin looked at Zhang Wanan and asked with a smile. Zhang Wanan nodded vigorously, wanting to eat everything, and also buy something that she and Lu Zizhu both liked. After turning around, the shopping cart was full. Zhang Wanan took out her pocket money to pay the bill, and then ran out happily with her things. Aunt Chin didn't expect Zhang Wanan to buy so many things. She looked at the things in surprise and asked, "Anan? How many things did you buy?" People of the older generation like Aunt Chin are used to being frugal, so they would inevitably be surprised to see Zhang Wanan buying so much. There are not many, they are all Xiao Zhu's favorite food. I always feel that he has lost weight during the video calls with him these days. I don't know if I think too much. Anyway, I just want to give him a good supplement. Zhang Wanan, her face was filled with happiness as she spoke. Aunt Chin looked at her little appearance and thought she was cute. She didn't continue to talk, and muttered with a smile, "The little girl has a lot of weird thoughts in the movie." Zhang Wanan smiled sheepishly, opened the door and helped Aunt Chin get into the car. Lu Zizhu will be back in a few days. The more she thinks about it, the more excited she becomes, and she feels relieved when she sees the food. After returning home, Zhang Wanan transported all the things she bought back to Lu Zizhu's room. She said it was Lu Zizhu's room, but in fact she had already taken it as her own. "Anyway, they are yours and mine, and my things are yours. They don't distinguish between you and me a long time ago." After putting the things away, Zhang Wanan looked at the time. Lu Zizhu would probably call in 10 minutes. Their call time was very fixed, except sometimes, such as when he was particularly thinking. While waiting for the call, Zhang Wanan suddenly felt that her heart could not settle down. She walked around the room and looked at it again and again, and finally her eyes locked on the sunglasses on the table. She walked over with a mysterious smile, picked it up and put it on her face. She looked left and right in the mirror and felt very satisfied. These were the same funny sunglasses she bought when she went shopping with Su Jiaojiao last time. Originally, I wanted to scare Lu Zizhu when she went to pick him up on the day he came back, but I was afraid that I would forget. Since the sunglasses had attracted her attention now, my plan changed and I would scare him today. Thinking about Zhang Wanan, she couldn't help but giggle hey hey, and thinking about Lu Zizhu's frightened look, she couldn't help but want to laugh. There are still 4 minutes left until the phone rings, and I feel anxious and tormented. Zhang Wanan was excited when there was a knock on the door. She was probably going to do something bad soon. She was so frightened that she jumped up from the bed. The moment she bounced up, Aunt Chin pushed the door open and walked in. She was probably frightened by Zhang Wanan's actions. Aunt Chin was so frightened that she stood at the door and forgot to speak. The two just looked at each other. "Chin, Aunt Chin, what's wrong?" Zhang Wanan broke the silence awkwardly. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 565. Chapter 565, Taking Advantage of Sex. "Chin, Aunt Chin, what's wrong?" Zhang Wanan broke the silence awkwardly. Aunt Chin finally came to her senses. Because she was frightened, she loosened her grip on the door handle and said, "You little girl, you almost let me pass." Zhang Wanan rubbed her head sheepishly and smiled, "Sorry, I'm about to have a phone call with Xiao Jojo, so I'm inevitably a little nervous," Zhang Wanan explained. Aunt Chin suddenly realized, "Well, I won't delay you anymore. I just came up to ask you if there is anything special you want to eat tonight." Zhang Wanan smiled and ran over, took Aunt Chin's hand and rubbed it in a flattering manner and said, "I like everything you cook." Aunt Chin was amused by her, touched her head and said, "The little girl is quite good at making people happy, so let's go." "Okay. It's so dark when you wear sunglasses in broad daylight." Take them off quickly. Aunt Jean couldn't help but muttered when she went downstairs, just like most old people who can't stand the way their grandchildren dress. Okay, okay, take it off right away, Jongwanan agreed with a smile. Her hands had already touched the sunglasses and she subconsciously took them off, but she suddenly thought that the sunglasses she was wearing were not very serious, so to avoid scaring Aunt Jean again, she did not take them off in front of her old man. Jongwanan watched Aunt Jean go downstairs before returning to the room. She felt that her and Aunt Jean's personalities were so similar. If possible, she felt that she could be sisters with Aunt Jean. Even though there was an age difference, they would always be together. It's very in tune. Jongwanan returned to the room and checked the time. It was already 3 minutes later than the agreed time. Luz's whose phone calls were usually never late. It's really a headache. Jongwanan rolled around on the bed several times out of boredom. 13 minutes later, Luz's whose call finally came. He was already 13 minutes late. Although Jongwanan felt unhappy, when she heard the phone ringing, she was so excited that she turned over and sat down with the phone in hand, then answered the call. She was holding a lollipop in her mouth and wearing a pair of sunglasses. No matter how she looked at her, she looked like a bad girl, arrogant and dazzling. The call was connected. When Jongwanan saw the person opposite, he immediately covered his eyes with an exaggerated hand, and then said seriously, "Don't look at anything inappropriate." Luz's who opposite was amused by her. He put down the towel that was still wiping his hair, and then put down his mobile phone. Then there was a rustling sound, and he got dressed. Okay, it's time to watch. Luz's who picked up his phone and reminded the hypocritical little girl opposite him. Jongwanan slowly put down his hand and asked, "Did you just take a shower?" "That's right, that's why I called a little late. We were in a hurry, right?" Jongwanan shook his head. "It's okay, there's no rush." Her ability to tell lies is getting better and better, and she doesn't know who it was that was so anxious just now. "You should be more careful in the future and put on clothes after taking a shower." Jongwanan pretended to be awkward. Luz's who touched his short hair that was still dripping and asked, "Why are you still shy? This is not like you anymore. You have changed." I'm a girl. It's normal to be shy. Please be careful and be careful of your roommate getting interested in you," Jongwanan said with a squinting expression. Luz's who was speechless, wondering where all this was going. "Did you hear that?" Jongwanan asked anxiously when she didn't get a response from Luz's who, and her voice became louder uncontrollably. Luz's who laughed. He picked up the towel and wiped his hair a few more times and said helplessly, "I know, I guess you are the only one who is interested in me." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 566. Chapter 566. Don't be afraid, wait until I go back to accompany you. Luz's who laughed. He picked up the towel and wiped his hair a few more times and said helplessly, "I know, I guess you are the only one who is interested in me. Look at what you said, I tell you, I am the only one who is sincere to you. Those girls and boys who send you love letters and so on are all interested in you, you know? So I am the most serious and the most serious person." "Safe," Jongwanan said seriously. Luz's who didn't know when the little girl had so many crooked ideas. He said cut to express his disdain and asked, "Where did you get your crooked ideas? Did you watch it on TV? I told you goodbye a long time ago." "Definitely, stop it." "To be honest, I haven't followed dramas for a long time," Jongwanan interrupted Luz's who and said proudly. "Yeah? Did you realize that you have to concentrate on studying?" Luz's who was very surprised. Jongwanan put down her proud look and put on a very embarrassed expression and said frankly, "It's just that after you left, I watched TV alone and caught up on the drama, and suddenly found that it didn't taste good anymore, so I have to wait for you to come back and lie in bed make up for it in your arms. Loses who shook his head helplessly and said good several times in a row. He didn't know why, but he felt sad for some reason, as if he owed the little girl a debt. I've been staring at your sunglasses for a long time. What's wrong with you? Why are you wearing sunglasses? Loses who finally had the opportunity to ask about the sunglasses. Zhang Wanan touched her sunglasses and smiled. If Loses who hadn't asked her, she would have gotten used to it. Zhang Wanan pointed to her eyes and said helplessly with an indescribable look, the eye suddenly broke. The doctor recommended wearing sunglasses, Zhang Wanan said in a sad tone. Loses who became nervous instantly. He frowned and asked with a solemn expression, what's going on? Are you injured? Did you get injured today? Zhang Wanan nodded silently. She suddenly felt that it was a bit immoral to deceive Loses who like this, but it was also a bit refreshing. Why? My mood at the moment is very contradictory. Is it still okay? How did you get injured? Loses who continued to ask. Yes, but my eyesight will be damaged. I didn't know what kind of light struck me when I went out today. Zhang Wanan pursed her lips tightly after finishing speaking. Then, what does the world you see now look like? Loses whose voice weakened. It was a weak voice, probably blaming himself for not being able to protect her by her side. Zhang Wanan felt sad for no reason. She felt a little sorry for Loses who, simply because she had been deceived. It's blurry, do you want to see it? I can take off my sunglasses. Zhang Wanan couldn't bear to tease him anymore, he would be sad. Can I take it off? Is the doctor willing? You have to abide by the doctor's orders. I will ask for leave in a while and I can go back tomorrow morning. Don't be afraid, wait until I get back to accompany you, Loses who said. Zhang Wanan felt that her eyes were really blurry and her heart was filled with panic. She pursed her lips and looked at Loses who on the screen, not knowing what to say. She just wanted to slap herself. He was really childish. Because her childishness makes those who love her sad and worried. What's wrong? Are your eyes feeling uncomfortable? Loses who asked worriedly when he saw that she seemed to be still when she didn't speak. Zhang Wanan shook his head, feeling like something was about to stick down his cheeks. She put her phone on the table, turned around, took off her sunglasses, touched her eyes hard with her sleeves, took a deep breath, and turned around. Loses who on the phone was anxious because he didn't see her for a moment, but when he saw Zhang Wanan again, he smiled, a relaxed smile. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 567. Chapter 567. I really want to hug you. Loses who on the phone was anxious because he didn't see her for a moment, but when he saw Zhang Wanan again, he smiled, a relaxed smile. Loses who, I'm fine, Zhang Wanan confessed before Loses who spoke. Loses who didn't understand what she meant, he just tried his best to observe her eyes through the screen. This made Zhang Wanan feel even more uncomfortable and regretful. Originally, she wanted to tease him to make her happy, but now she doesn't think her prank is very good, but feels childish. Zhang Wanan worked hard and raised the corners of her lips, held up the sunglasses in her hand to show it to Loses who, and said, I'm fine. I wanted to tease you, but the joke went too far. I'm sorry, Xiao Jojo. Loses who took a look at the sunglasses and realized that they were prank sunglasses. However, he did not relax and asked again, is it really okay? You didn't lie to me. Zhang Wanan threw the sunglasses into the trash can. She thought she would never need those sunglasses again in her life. They were boring. After throwing away the sunglasses, Zhang Wanan reached out and touched her eyes to prove herself and said, it's really okay, I can see you. She can even see your sincerity. Of course Zhang Wanan didn't say that. Loses whose expression relaxed and he smiled, it's good that you're fine. He is not angry at the little girl's prank, as long as she is fine. If something happens to her, he will probably blame himself for the rest of his life. I'm sorry, Jongwon apologized again. Loses who shook his head and subconsciously reached out to touch Jongwon's head to comfort her, but as soon as he raised his hand, he remembered that they were on a video call and could not be touched. Loses who had no choice but to pat the top of his phone and treat it as touching Jongwon's head to comfort her. It's okay. Jongwon nodded, sniffed, and said, Loses who, I really want to hug you. They can only chat on the cold mobile phone now, and she doesn't like this mode of chatting. Anan, I'm going home soon. Just wait, Loses who said. He also wanted to hug Jongwon, ruffle her hair and straighten it for her, but he couldn't do anything through his phone now. I'll wait for you, Jongwon nodded vigorously. Loses who suddenly laughed again, and he said jokingly, if you kept teasing me just now and didn't expose yourself, you would be able to see me tomorrow morning. He was ready to ask for leave, ready to run back to hug the little girl and comfort her. Jongwon was a little embarrassed. She asked, what's your reason for asking for leave? I just said that my fiancé was injured and I have to go back no matter what. Loses who stated the reason he had thought of. Jongwon smiled and said, fiancé, study hard. You are also my fiancé, Loses who said to Jongwon. The two chatted for a long time before hanging up the phone. Just after Loses who hung up, his roommate started to make trouble with Loses who. Brother Joe is just fine. Have you thought of the reasons for asking for leave? This little wife is so important. Seeing you, 99, what a lifetime. Brother, don't say anything anymore. Leave one of the best man seats for me. I'll reserve it for $100. As for the rest, I'll make up for the rest on your big day, said the roommate with the bright red hair. Grandpa slapped it on Loses who's table. Brother, there's me. If the best man can't be arranged, I'll be the bridesmaid. Another roommate also squeezed over with a smile. Loses who smiled in a good mood. He stuffed the red note back and said, the best man and bridesmaid will not miss you. Just keep this money for now and make a big purchase later. Brother Dealey. Loses who looked at the three chattering people and suddenly realized that these three people were more excited about his future than he was. The wedding scene was about to be arranged soon. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 568. Chapter 568, Embarrass Yourself. Loses who looked at the three chattering people and suddenly realized that these three people were more excited about his future than he was. The wedding scene was about to be arranged soon. Loses who knew that the three of them were getting excited, so he didn't talk to them and let them dream about the future for themselves. But his future is probably what the three of them imagined. He and Jongwon are still together, they are married, have their own home, and even have lovely children. Loses who smiled helplessly and took his mobile phone to book a ticket to go home. If it was later, he might not be able to go back. Asterisk. The Mid-Autumn Festival is coming soon. Do you want to go out with me? Or go to a movie together? Jong Bai-hui asked excitedly while waiting for Jongwon at the door. Why do you have to run out during the Mid-Autumn Festival? Isn't it a day for family reunion? Jongwon looked at Jong Bai-hui with a blank expression. Jong Bai-hui smiled awkwardly and changed his words. Yes, I almost said something wrong. What I meant was that we can go out to play together the day after the Mid-Autumn Festival. Jongwon understood, nodded, and said, that's right, I'm afraid that won't work either. My little Jojo will be back soon. When Jongwon talked about Loses who, there seemed to be little stars in her eyes, and she couldn't control the smile on her face. Jong Bai-hui smiled awkwardly again. Yes, how could he forget that Loses who was coming back? Usually he couldn't ask Jongwon out until Loses who came back, but this time it was even more impossible for him. Again, you are looking for boredom and embarrassing yourself. I was just teasing you. I have plans with my parents during the Mid-Autumn Festival. Zhang Baihui found a way to get off the stairs. Well, that's good, Zhang Wanan replied. Suddenly I felt very embarrassed. The two of them didn't speak any more along the way, and no one took the initiative to find a topic. After returning to the classroom, Zhang Wanan sat down in her seat. She glanced at Su Jiaojiao and He Chiu. Class was about 10 minutes away. It was already this time and the two people hadn't come yet. This didn't suit them. Ah! They haven't come yet, Zhang Baihui said while standing next to Zhang Wanan. Yeah, don't worry, they will be fine together, Zhang Wanan said while picking up the book. I think so. The two of them together are only responsible for other people's misfortune. I don't think anyone will do anything to them. Zhang Baihui was also very relieved about the two of them. As the two of them said this, they felt that it would be nothing if they came late. But it was already noon and neither of them came to Zhang Wanan, so things were a bit strange. You can't both get sick together if you ask for sick leave, right? Zhang Wanan muttered to herself. Zhang Baihui didn't know when he came over and happened to hear what she said, and said, yeah, what's going on? How about asking the teacher what's going on with them? Zhang Wanan said hesitantly. Okay. The two of them agreed. Without saying a word, they stood up and walked to the teacher's office. But as soon as they reached the door, they bumped into the head teacher who was rushing over. Hey, where are you two going? The teacher asked. Teacher, we are just going to your office, Zhang Baihui explained. There's no need to go, I'm just here to find you two, the head teacher said and led the two people towards the corner, looking mysterious. The two of them looked at me and I looked at you. They didn't know why the head teacher was looking for them. Anyway, they were just surprised. Teacher, what's wrong? Zhang Wanan asked after reaching the corner. It's like this. According to the feedback from the two teachers who attended class this morning, Jiao Xiao and He Chiu did not come to class. You guys usually play well, do you know the situation? The head teacher asked them with an anxious face. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 569. Chapter 569 is worrying. It's like this. According to the feedback from the two teachers who attended class this morning, Jiao Xiao and He Chiu did not come to class. You guys usually play well, do you know the situation? The head teacher asked them with an anxious face. Zhang Wanan and Zhang Baihui were both shocked when they heard the teacher's question. You looked at me and I looked at you, and you were so nervous that you couldn't speak. The head teacher saw that neither of them spoke and asked, what's going on? Do you know anything? Zhang Wanan and Zhang Baihui shook their heads quickly. Teacher, we just went to see you to ask about their situation, Zhang Baihui explained. It means you don't know either, right? The head teacher asked with a frown. The two men nodded. This is a bad thing. I didn't ask for leave. Could it be that there was an accident? The head teacher said nervously to himself, then turned to the two of them and said, you two go back to class first, and I'll make a phone call, ask their parents. Although Zhang Wanan and Zhang Baihui were worried, they couldn't do anything and had no choice but to go back to the classroom obediently. Teacher, tell us when you know the news about them, Zhang Wanan said before entering the classroom. Okay, don't worry, you two. I'll let you know as soon as there is news, and have a good time in class. After explaining, the head teacher hurried to the office. After the head teacher's figure disappeared, Zhang Wanan went to hold onto the railing and look at it from a distance. She thought, when did these two people become so unreliable, not coming to school or asking for leave, which is really worrying. Zhang Baihui also stood beside her. Hearing Zhang Wanan sigh, he carefully reached out and patted Zhang Wanan's back to comfort her and said, it's okay. The teacher will definitely be able to contact them soon. Maybe he's just being playful. I found something fun on the road and then forgot to ask for leave. Zhang Wanan was only worried about the two of them, and didn't notice Zhang Baihui's hand on her back. She nodded, I hope so. Go back to the classroom, Zhang Baihui said. Zhang Wanan nodded and turned around to walk to the classroom. After taking only one step, she turned around again, thinking that time flies so fast. In the past, she was holding onto the railing to look at the teaching building on Lu Zizhu's side, but now Lu Zizhu is not here. When she went to school here, she was holding onto the railing and looking at those two guys. Haven't thought about it yet. Zhang Wanan finished the morning's class with random thoughts. She originally thought that with the efficiency of the class teacher, she would get the news soon, but she didn't get the news until after lunch, and she didn't see the two people. She thought that the head teacher had forgotten to tell her. She originally wanted to go to the office to ask about the situation, but after thinking about it, she was afraid that the head teacher was busy and would not be able to disturb her. After experiencing some ideological struggle, Zhang Wanan still stood at the door of the office, but when she knocked on the door, she found that the head teacher was not in the office. Zhang Wanan walked out with confusion. She was distracted and didn't pay attention to the front. Suddenly she bumped into someone. When she came to her senses and was about to apologize, she heard Zhang Baihui's voice. It turned out that the person she bumped into was Zhang Baihui. You went to see the teacher. Zhang Baihui didn't care what happened when Zhang Wanan just hit him. He glanced at the door of the office and asked. Well, no, I'm sorry, I just bumped into you, Zhang Wanan said, walking around Zhang Baihui and walking to the front. It's okay, I don't feel any pain, Zhang Baihui said. Zhang Wanan nodded and said nothing. He didn't know where the teacher had gone, but he didn't feel very good anyway. Don't worry too much. Listen to the class carefully in the afternoon and don't be distracted. The teacher will tell us when he has news. Zhang Baihui saw that she was unhappy and comforted her. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 570. Chapter 570, You won't elope, right? Don't worry too much. Listen to the class carefully in the afternoon and don't be distracted. The teacher will tell us when he has news. Zhang Baihui saw that she was unhappy and comforted her. There is no news so far, and no one is in the office anymore. What does this mean? Zhang Wanan suddenly stopped and looked at Zhang Baihui seriously and asked. Maybe the teacher is busy with something. Zhang Baihui thought about it and could only explain it this way. It was probably the only explanation that made Zhang Wan feel at ease. Zhang Wanan shook his head and continued walking, saying I don't know. Those two people shouldn't be so outrageous that they won't come to school without asking for leave, right? It's not like that anymore. The more Zhang Wanan thought about it, the more she felt something was wrong. She suddenly stopped and widened her eyes and said in surprise, You're not going to elope, are you? What's wrong with you? Why did they elope? Don't think too much about it, Zhang Baihui complained. Zhang Wanan muttered maybe in a low voice, then walked quickly back to the classroom and lay down on the table. She was no longer ready to think about it, so she just waited for the news. There was no point in thinking too much. Zhang Wanan didn't pay much attention to the class all afternoon. Her mind was in a whirlwind, thinking only about the whereabouts of the two people and why the teacher hadn't given her any news yet. When school was over in the afternoon, everyone in the classroom was gone. Zhang Baihui walked up to Zhang Wanan and asked, Aren't you leaving yet? Wait a minute, I'll go to the teacher's office to see if he's back, Zhang Wanan said while packing her bag. Well, I'll accompany you, Zhang Baihui said. Zhang Wanan said nothing and only nodded. Before Zhang Wanan could pack her school bag, there were footsteps at the door. The two of them looked up at the same time and found the head teacher standing there. Teacher, have you found them? Zhang Wanan stood up and asked excitedly. Found it, It's in the hospital. I didn't tell you for fear of delaying your studies. I just came back from the hospital. Jiang Wanan's heart was suddenly pricked, and she asked nervously, why did you go to the hospital so well? Be beaten by someone? How could you be beaten? Jiang Wanan nervously interrupted what the head teacher had not finished saying. Zhang Baihui pulled Jiang Wanan to tell her not to be too excited. Let the teacher finish, Zhang Baihui reminded in a low voice. Teacher, please continue, Jiang Wanan said. The head teacher nodded and continued, they didn't suffer much, and they beat each other hard enough. But it wasn't them who started it, it was the other person who started it. They were originally going to block Jiao Xiao, but in the end He Chiu, the two of us walked by and got on together. The two of them are very united and work well together, the head teacher said with emotion after explaining. Why are you blocking Jiao Xiao? Jiang Wanan asked. There was a girl who liked He Chiu, but when Jiao Jiao got too close to him, she felt that Jiao Jiao was a stumbling block, so I wanted to block Jiao Jiao to make her remember her, the head teacher said helplessly. He heard all this from the two young ancestors, and now he told Jiang Wanan and Zhang Baihui exactly as they were. It's a blessing that He Chiu found out, otherwise Jiao Jiao would definitely suffer a loss if he fought against several people by himself, the head teacher added. How are they injured? Jiang Wanan asked worriedly. Jiao Jiao is fine. He Chiu's forehead has been sealed with a few stitches, which will leave a scar, the head teacher said and began to shake his head helplessly. It's okay, Jiang Wanan breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, don't worry too much, you two, go back quickly, other people's families are worried. The head teacher waved his hand and motioned for the two of them to go home quickly. Jiang Wanan already knew the general situation and knew that they had nothing to do. He felt relieved, put on his school bag, said goodbye, teacher, to the class teacher and left. End of this chapter.